We're getting ready to go back and do a little bit of beekeeping. Today is more of just a look-see. I don't think a lot will need done. I'll catch you up on what's been going on over the last couple weeks out at the bee yard. Hey Mama Kirbs. Full therapy. We're just walking back today. I'm not driving the truck because I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of boxes to move around or equipment needed. I have my pail with the smoker and the fuel. That should be enough. I do have my cool vest on because it's hot and I don't want to get hot. The horizontal hives are here on the farm. I'll be showing more of those coming soon. There's a little bit of trouble here with the apiary. See, my temporary strap has come down and I found out it wasn't doing a lot of good anyway, because the other day I came out here and Teo, the white horse, was inside even with the strap up. I'm not too terribly worried about the horse getting stung because I think, you know, it's a big enough animal. It's not gonna hurt him that bad. But what I am concerned about is him getting in this small space, getting stung, and start kicking around and knocking all my beehives over. Building a gate on the bee yard is becoming much more of a priority. I believe it was 2 weeks ago I had put extra boxes, honey supers, on these beehives because I thought we were getting a honey flow, which means there's just going to be a lot of flowers and pollen and nectar available for the bees because of the mesquite trees were blooming. But then we got some rain, and I think that knocked out some of the pollen and the nectar from the mesquite. And then they didn't really come back as strong as far as, you know, number of flowers. So 2 weeks ago I put boxes on. Last week I realized they weren't building or doing anything with those boxes, so I took them back off. This week we're going to go in and see what the condition of the hives are, see what the condition is, man, grammar, and see if they need any more boxes. If they do, I'll have to come back out tomorrow and put boxes on, but I'm not prepared for that this evening. It's a little late in the day, and we're just going to do the inspection now. If we do need to add boxes or anything, we'll take care of that tomorrow. We're going to take a look in the Gretchen Bee Ranch hive first, hive GBR, and see how they're doing. Last week I did take a honey super off. They were doing great down below, but they just weren't building up here, and I didn't want them to have too much real estate to defend against moths and beetles. The beetles can be really terrible at this time of year. They get in, they get a foothold, and they turn the whole nest into just a slimy mess. So to prevent that, we just don't give them too much room. This hive has a lot of ants. The teeny tiny ants, I call them sugar ants or crazy ants. They dance around real crazy. I can just tell by looking at top, they still haven't done a lot of building. I'll give you a look in a second. Just nothing on it yet. So I'll give you a look up top. We'll pull a couple of these frames and then we'll get into that bottom box. Just by peeking in here, let me give you a look. Just by peeking in, I can see 3. This one has a little bit more building on it. Let me pull that up so you can see. You can see a little bit more comb being built on that one. Both sides, a little bit of honey being deposited. But it's still mostly empty there. So that's a total of 4 frames, 5 frames. It has some wax, but mostly empty. And then we get into the middle. I'm going to put this camera back down. Now we're getting into a lot more honey, a lot more honeycomb. The last 5 frames on this side look more like this. They are packing some pollen in there, building their bee bread or pollen cake. So they are mostly doing their their business, their baby making down in, not mostly, that they're doing everything down in that bottom box. They have a little queen cup on the bottom of this one. I don't see a queen up here. They have a small queen cup on this one as well. It doesn't look like they're drawing it out, but it is a queen cup. I'm looking for a queen before I bring this over there to show you. I don't know if you can see on there that queen cup being built right there. And just a bunch of honey, good looking honeycomb and honey on this one. So we're going to take this box off and get in there and just check the condition of the brood nest down below. It's looking pretty good. Let me give you a propped up view here so you can see down into here. On this far right side, they do have a lot of honey on both sides. I don't see any brood, anything that looks like brood. Just honeycomb and honey, which is nice. It really just means they're building out their comb structure so that eventually I can move those frames into a position where they maybe can build brood. Lots of good honey on that one. Nope, you see that beetle? We're going to put a towel. Yeah, I see a couple of beetles. 3 beetles. That's not good. A little bit of honey on this side. There we go. They have, they're putting a lot of pollen and nectar down in there. I don't see any brood. That kind of looks like the edge of a brood nest, but I don't see any brood in here. I don't see a queen bee. I do see beetles. So this hive definitely has some beetle issue. We're going to put a towel in there and help them out. See if it helps them out. Oh, goodness. Beautiful. That's a lot. That's a lot of resources. That's pollen, nectar, honey. I don't see any brood yet, so we're maybe a little concerned, but we don't know yet. Let's see. They do have some stress with some of the ants coming in and out. I do see some larvae in this one. I'm looking for eggs. I don't see any eggs yet. Okay, lots of larvae in this one, so that's good. And I do see eggs. That means there's a queen in here, or there has been in the last 3 days. They're very calm. Looking for a little Miss Queen. Just a glance to see if I see her. Okay, not yet. So we do have eggs. Just based on how they're acting, I'm going to say she's in here and she's fine. Okay, lots of brood in this one too. So their brood nest is more over to one side. The same side that their honey production was on. I haven't seen her yet, but that's okay. Like I've said many times before, I like to see her just because it makes me know for certain that she's there and she's okay, but sometimes you just have to be satisfied with seeing evidence of her, meaning eggs. So we have a pretty decent brood nest in the middle. It's only a few frames wide. There's another queen cup on this one. I don't know if you can see it right there. And this one feels like honey. Oh my goodness. Solid honey on one side. Brood nest, or actually it looks like the edge of a brood nest, but it's a lot of pollen on this side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of these frames out of this box and insert it in the middle and move one of the fuller frames up to the top. I'm going to choose a different one. That one has a lot of brood on it. I don't really want to put a lot of brood up top, but I just want to take let's take one of these right over here. We're going to scoot this over, and we're going to put this frame this one over here. Put it right down in the middle here. Hopefully that will encourage them to build up a little bit more. There wasn't any significant brood on that one. There was a little bit. So we're going to insert these frames that have some drawn comb. Okay, good. Now we're going to put that one back up here and be done with that one for today. I got to figure out what to do about those ants. Actually, I said we were going to put a towel in here. We're going to help them out with some of this beetle challenge. I don't like to see the beetles get a foothold, and there were a few more beetles in here than I like to see. I don't like to see any, but hopefully by putting that towel in there, it'll help them control that a little more. They'll force those beetles into that towel, and the beetles get stuck, so it's a trap. It does work. It's not 100%, but it does work. So you can see once again, I collected wax last week and I forgot to take it in the house. It's still on top. I'm wax coating their roof. This box was nearly full of honey last week. They had an extra empty box up here as well, and I took it off. So they are working on that. I can see some new honey. But this side's mostly empty. So we'll get a good feel for how much empty space they have up here. That one's a nice heavy frame of honey. It's probably 80% full on this side. This one's probably 50% on this side, about 60 or so on this side. They're filling it up, but they still have lots of empty space. None of them are 100% capped. That one's getting pretty close. I do look forward to working with my horizontal hives. That way I don't have all these boxes to move around. Okay, that one is about 95% total filled and capped. Looks like this one's the same. So they do have some good honey production going on. That's brood there, that's larva, baby bees. And I don't see a queen here. So they have definitely moved some brood up into this box. Lots of brood on this frame. That is a brood frame with a little bit of honey on it. The bees are being pretty calm. They do have a couple of queen cups on the bottom of that one. It looks like there's a lot of brood over here as well. So they had some honey on the outside and they're building brood. So they probably, I'll need to bring another box up here. I would prefer that they be building in the deep boxes. So again, this is the end of the brood nest right here. They have pollen and nectar, but that's that circular shape, that half circle, semicircle in the middle, that's brood. And that capped, those capped cells on there, that's brood nest, that's baby bees. Okay. And then this last frame looks like a lot of honey, but there's just a little bit of brood nest on there. Honey on that side. Actually, I don't see any brood nest. I thought there was because I could see that shape in the middle, but that's all nectar and pollen. Down in the second brood box, you probably can't see our friend over here, our garden spider friend. That one's completely empty, no foundation at all. So last week I recognized that they had a lot of brood and was giving them a box in the middle. So let's see how that's going. Alright. So it looks like from last week, now it's all coming back to me. I put this on here to help them start building up in this second box. And it looks like they have not done that. Okay, and I did stagger quite a few empty frames in here, meaning no foundation, so I'm not going to mess with it. It looks like they're working on it, they're doing okay. I'm going to just leave that. Now see, if this was a deep box, I could be swapping out brood, but since that is one of those big mediums, I can't do that. Basically what I'm seeing is that the condition of the hives this week is not that much different than they were last week. So I don't think it's going to be necessary for me to get into all of them. I will open the lids, take a peek, but I'm not going to dig in. One, it's getting late and I just don't feel like it's that necessary to get in and start disturbing all the bees when there's not any difference. They haven't had a honey flow, a pollen, nectar flow, so their resources are kind of the same. They're just hanging out, doing their business. Just not important for me to open and dig into each and every hive. But we are going to open them just to take a peek. I almost bumped into this beautiful girl here too. That's two big garden spiders out here in the apiary. So they are building honey up here. I can see that. It looks much like it did last week. I have several frames down here on the end that are completely empty. I'm going to leave that alone, but take a quick peek down below. This is a towel that I put in last week, hoping to catch some beetles. Let's see if we got any. I saw one beetle on here, but he was moving around. I see another beetle inside, so they haven't fluffed this one up enough to equal catching beetles. We'll fold it in half. Sometimes that helps if it's a little thicker. Ow. Got one. I don't very often get stung through the gloves. And I did put some empty ones in the middle of this one, and they're still empty. A little bit of wax being built on. We have a lot of honey in the middle of this. So this one has some brood, some pollen, some nectar, some honey. Eggs, I see eggs in the middle. Lots of honey on that side. We have some brood, some nectar in this one. Same thing over here, some brood, some nectar. I need to see if I have any drawn comb up at the house in the freezer, because I could put a deep frame with drawn comb in the middle of this and probably help them out. Okay, I saw eggs, I saw resources, I saw that they had room in there. I would like to see them building a little more on these empty frames, which is why I said I might bring out some drawn comb if I have some. But otherwise I think they look pretty good. We're going to put it back together. So we really have just the Hive 2, the Hive 2 split. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was Hive 1 split, Hive 1, Hive 2 split. This one, the little one, I took down from 2 nuke boxes to 1 because they weren't building at all. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that one and see if they're doing any better. That means I'm going to have to disturb my spider friend. Okay. This is the one that I split off using some swarm cells. I learned a lot in that episode actually because I'd never dealt a lot with swarm cells. And I'm going to guess that right now that these right here are also swarm cells. I know they're queen cells. Does that mean this hive's getting ready to swarm? I'm not sure exactly. But it's either that they are getting ready to swarm or they just needed a queen and they're building a queen. Either way, I'm going to put it back together. They had plenty of room in that box. They only have 5 frames. It's just a nuke. It's really not big enough for a hive to carry on for very long. But if there's a lot of extra space, meaning that they haven't filled up all of the available comb, then my assumption is that they're fine for a little while. They do have some pollen, some nectar, some honey, and apparently some queen cells. They have lots of honey on this side and completely empty on that side. No comb, no nothing. There's larvae. Older larvae. I don't see any little larvae. And I don't see any eggs. So maybe they did have a queen that left. There's not a lot of bees. I mean, I think I've seen more. So maybe a queen left, and they're trying to establish this still as a colony here with bees that are remaining. No eggs. And actually, as I look at these other last two frames, I'm going to say that they probably did swarm. And now this is just half the hive that stayed back. So far I've seen no queen, no eggs. They have 2 queen cups, or queen cells rather. So my assessment of the little split is that they did swarm again. The bees left half the colony with the queen. She's gone. They left 2 queen cells in there. They haven't opened yet. So hopefully those will open and they will establish that once again as a colony, and I can grow that split up and put it in a full-size hive. I do want to say that I think it's important always to understand that when somebody is sharing their experience, they don't have to know it all. I am not a know-it-all beekeeper. I'm just a guy that keeps bees, and there's a lot that I don't know. I share my experience because, one, some of you find it entertaining, some of you find it encouraging, and a few of you find it educational. Never once have I ever claimed to be the expert beekeeper. In fact, I've said to the opposite many times. I'm not your expert beekeeper. I'm a YouTuber that loves beekeeping, and I share my journey. There's a lot about the queen cells and queen cups and the swarming and how all that happens that I don't understand completely. And I admit that I need to do a lot more research, a lot more studying on those subjects, but unfortunately, for my beekeeping career, I haven't had the time it takes to give to that. Now I know I've had comments before about, well, if you don't have time, then you shouldn't be a beekeeper. Well, if that were the case, then I wouldn't do much of anything. I happen to like gardening, having an orchard, the animals, all the things that I do on the farm. I know that I do too much. And someday I'll figure out how to pare that down and get really good at a few things instead of doing too much. I've already started to focus last year and this year. I've given some of my fringe ideas up, and I'm coming in and focusing. I know that beekeeping is one of those things that I need to study a lot more. So those of you who share your experience in the comments and you keep it friendly and nice, I really appreciate that. Those of you who share your experience and you're not so nice, I still appreciate the feedback. I just wish that we could have a dialogue that wasn't so negative. You're not, I don't think, building any credibility online by being mean to me. And I certainly wouldn't build any credibility or a community that's learning if I acted like I knew it all. I don't know it all. And guess what? Even those of you who think you do, you don't. You probably know more than me, but you don't know it all. So I just wanted to add that disclaimer. It's not really a disclaimer, it's just a statement. There are times when I feel like when I start a beekeeping episode, I need to go through this disclaimer that this beekeeping episode is for entertainment purposes only. Do not try to learn how to beekeep from this YouTube channel. For those of you who expect that you're going to watch a beekeeping episode on anyone's channel and it be fully 100% accurate, well, you're probably being misled. I don't know exactly what's going on with this split. I don't know exactly how to recognize when they've lost a queen or when they've swarmed, but I will learn. And if you are gentle and kind in the comments, I may actually read your comment and take it to heart. Alright, it's late. I am not getting into the tallest hive here. That would be hive 2. And I'm also not getting into hive 3. This is the hive that I've been showing exclusively on Patreon. So the things that I have to do out in the bee yard. 1, I need to come out here, cut some weeds down, clear some areas for the horizontal hives, build a door on the bee yard there so the horses don't get in. Yeah, all next steps in the beekeeping adventures here on the Daddykirbs Farm. I do appreciate you hanging out with me. Here on the Daddykirbs Farm, I truly, deeply, firmly believe that everyone has a story, and every story counts. Thank you so much for being a part of my story through this video and letting me be a part of yours. I believe your story counts because I believe you count. I'll talk to you soon.